Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for staying tuned in to the Blackout Live from New York. I am super excited to be here with you guys today just to set the stage because I know that some folks might not be used to this segment of BlackUSA.News. The Blackout Live from New York aims to really focus on Black economics and how we can start to look at economics from a diaspora, and how that comes back into our communities and reimagining trends in business, but also exploring what's happening in other ecosystems. And so today's show is going to be going back to basics, and we are really going to be going over some articles that we might have missed, that happened in the past 2 weeks. And so I have an article here, but it was having a hard time pulling up. So excuse me if I'm reading from my phone, but I really think that this is something that we should take a look at. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, and you can definitely go on Google or Bing or however you do your searches. But I'm not sure if you guys know that 5 states are voting for a slavery ballot in this upcoming election. I didn't know that slavery is on the ballot in 5 states. The states are Alabama, Louisiana, Oregon, Tennessee, and Vermont. They are going to be voting on forced labor in prisons. So definitely, you want to be on the lookout for that. Some legal experts caution that the ballot measures will not likely have an immediate legal effect if they are passed, but prisoners and their advocates say the measures will send an instant message that America's freedom from slavery does not hinge on whether they have committed a crime. So definitely wanted to bring that to you guys. Now into some business stuff, not that this isn't business. I wanted to share about a business called Slutty Vegan. I'm not sure if you might have been following this before, but Slutty Vegan is basically a vegan eatery, and it has gotten a lot of attraction over the past couple of months. We're not necessarily talking about Slutty Vegan's expansion efforts into additional cities or communities. What we are talking about is that Slutty Vegan has filed a trademark to run her business in the metaverse. Months ago, we had some folks on and we talked about the metaverse and how it was so new and how are we going to stay clean in the metaverse. All I'm saying is that we probably should be thinking about how our businesses are functioning in the metaverse. If they aren't, how could they function in the metaverse? And really trying to wrap our heads around it, because the metaverse likely is not going anywhere. And right now we're seeing that you can trademark businesses in the metaverse. Also, a few weeks ago, we talked about marijuana, cannabis, pot, weed, whatever you want to call it. And now weed is coming to Circle K gas stations in the US next year. Next year really isn't that far away. And so we definitely want to pay attention to the change of the landscape of cannabis. And so this is really, focused on Florida gasoline retailers. I guess this is where Circle K convenient chain stores are predominantly located in the US, but it is important for us to continue to pay attention to the ever-changing landscape of cannabis policies, how they are impacting neighboring states. in or states on their coastal lines, because we want to make sure that we are participating not just as consumers, not just as consumer-based products, but we want to make sure that we are getting as much revenue as possible as a community. And we need to start looking out of our borders here. Is saying that the standalone dispensaries in the U.S. And these pharmacies run parallel to some countries such as Germany. So we definitely probably want to look abroad to see what has happened in other countries, what could likely happen here. We definitely want to look at California. Just thumbing through this article right now, it says that Florida is the second largest U.S. market for marijuana, following California. So if you're thinking about getting into the cannabis business, like understanding your market is definitely going to be vital for you being able to get into the game and make some money, probably diversify your verticals of business. So definitely wanted to bring that to you all's attention. Now, I know that you guys have been hearing about Kanye, and I just know it. And we're going to talk about Kanye in a moment, but I bring that up because I'm also sure that you guys have heard of this Candace Owens person that is connected to both Kanye and Ray J and their debacle or kerfuffle with the Kardashians, but she also was going to be suing PayPal earlier this month. And the reason why is because there was some sort of breach that PayPal did. And so PayPal pulls back. They say that they won't fine customers $2,500 for misinformation after backlash. She basically, brought this to the forefront that there was some sort of policy that went out to all PayPal users around their accounts and how their accounts can be used and so on and so forth, and that she was going to sue them. This article here, you can find it at Yahoo Finance if you want to read more about what's going on with PayPal, how they're trying to rectify the situation. But definitely, I wanted to bring that to you guys' attention because I know that a lot of entrepreneurs are using PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, Cash App as methods of payment instead of merchant service providers. And so if you are doing that, I just wanted to let you know what's going on with PayPal. Now, some juicy stuff going back into Kanye. As I told you, I know that you guys are hearing about all of these news clippings and articles. How can you not? He made a shirt that said White Lives Matter. He has been arguing with former anchor on CNN, Chris Cuomo. He said some anti-Semitic comments. He has gotten his money pulled from banks. He has gotten his endorsements slashed. It is crazy out here in these streets for Kanye. What is going to happen next? I don't think any of us have a clue what's going to happen with Kanye next. But I wanted to talk about this from a business perspective because I feel like there's a lot of learnings in what is going on with Kanye. And so Kanye, I used to love him. I mean, I don't know how I feel about him now, but I used to love his Late Registration album. I remember listening to it in college. Definitely helped me stay energized and write those late night papers and study for midterms and finals. So definitely was a Kanye fan with College Dropout and the like. I loved it. And that has helped him to create new verticals, as we know, in fashion and other business prospects that he has, maybe running parallel to being a musician and a producer and an artist. But now we're seeing that these partnerships or collaborations are leading him down a slippery slope, which is where I think he was probably making most of his money. Probably wasn't coming from the artistry of being in music, but likely coming from these additional partnerships that he had. And now he is losing these partnerships right and left. What is he going to do in order to maintain his cash flow? I have no idea. It seems like he's almost being blacklisted because of the things that he's saying and the way that he's treating folks, and folks aren't here to play around with him. And so I'm really worried that he hasn't been thinking about the impact of his persona, whether he believes these things or not. You know, some folks are saying, hey, he doesn't believe all these things that he's saying. He's just doing it for shock value at this point. Some people are saying that they think that he's, you know, mentally ill. He needs to go get help. Whatever the case is, his personal life is starting to impact his business life, which impacts how he lives his life, period. And so I'm really concerned about what this all means and how he is going to finagle his way out of this. As we know, anti-Semitic remarks is one of the fastest ways to get canceled out here in these streets. So I'm wondering if anything, can he, you know, bounce back from this? Is there any kind of public relations campaign that can be launched on his behalf, if possible, if anybody even wants to launch something on his behalf to try to keep him in the limelight? But this is definitely gonna, you know, hurt his pockets a lot. Speaking of rappers, not sure if you all remember Ludacris. I was having some issues with pulling up the article, but Ludacris has expanded his chicken and beer restaurant chain to one of the busiest airports in the nation. And so I think what we're seeing here is a trend of folks figuring out how do they get into the local and in many ways international markets through different types of industries. And airports, you guys, is a big hub for business that I think a lot of folks are missing when they're thinking about their big ask and their big dreams. You know, people don't necessarily think about doing business with airports. I think that as a diaspora of folks, we should. We know that duty free makes a whole lot of money when you go through the airport, wondering how more Black folks can have kiosks in the airport or stores in the airport where they can sell their goods and services. I think we probably should peel back some layers of Ludacris and his restaurant. I know for sure, if anything, he's probably getting a lot of awareness around his chicken and beer brand being in a busy airport, which will likely allow him to get into additional airports. So I just wanted to drop that in you guys' soup really quickly this morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you are looking at this program. I have a couple more articles here that I wanted to share. One, I know we've been thinking about what happened to the Jetsons. Are we ever going to see the Jetsons come to life? The answer to this question is probably. There is a flying taxi that took off for the first time in public display from Ping's Motors. I hope I said that correctly. As you can see, here it is flying. What does this mean? The battery can store for electricity for a 35-minute flight. Not sure how far that gets us. However, we can see that this is happening. This is a thing. So as we relate this back to economics, how does this work for the automotive industry, for engineers, for space exploration. I mean, if we could fly a little bit in the air, what does this mean for space exploration? Are there any parallels? How can we start to get into these emerging markets? What does this mean for building out new electronic cars, which I know is a thing here in New York City, about thinking about how do we move around in the different ways in which we can move around. So I definitely think that this is something worth exploring, as is these new thoughts around food security. And we know from Michelle Obama's Just Move campaign in 2019, there was a lot of talk around this term food deserts and what makes a food desert and how do we combat food deserts and how do we start to go back to growing. If you want to know more, you should definitely watch my network mate show Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. because I know that she talks a lot about community gardens. But right here, we're just going to be talking about lettuce that are growing right inside the supermarket without any packaging in a hydroponic garden in a fridge. This is new. I think that we should think about how this works. Does this change the ecology of food and how we consume food and how we grow food? Just thinking about a lot of different verticals that we as a community of people can start to get into as businesses, because we need to think through how do we start being major players in industries, whether they are existing industries or emerging markets, where we are not just the consumer or making consumer end products. We need to think about how do we start to be part of the entire pipeline from grow to sell, and what does this mean? The last article that I am going to touch on here, again, I had a hard time loading the article up for your viewing purposes, but Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are giving back again. I'm not sure if any folks have businesses that might be able to apply for this grant, but the Archbold Foundation is basically giving $100 million in grants to women who serve as inspirations to teens. Now, I don't know what this means. I do not have the link for where you go to apply for the grant and make your proposal on how you are inspiring teens. But if there are any folks out here that are doing work that overlays with teens, definitely I would suggest that you do some digging to see how you might be able to take advantage of this sentiment. There was something else that I wanted to mention, but again, as I shared, I had a hard time pulling up a lot of the articles on here for you guys to be able to look at. But there was an article that I was considering, do I talk about it? Do I not talk about it? And I kind of want to talk about it. There's an article entitled Woman Goes to Dominican Republic for a Brazilian butt lift and Leaves Missing a Kidney. I remember when we had our commutator, Kenyatta S. Rose, on a few months ago, and we spoke about these Brazilian butt lifts that a lot of women are doing. When I went to Atlanta in June, I was very shocked about the advertisements for this kind of surgery in the bathroom of a restaurant. It was a whole poster in the stall around getting a Brazilian butt lift that I was not ready for. I had never encountered something like that in my life. But I think that we need to start thinking about these enhancements that women are doing that in some cases can lead to serious illnesses and or death. Some people have been, having really horrible reactions to getting certain surgeries. I don't know if they're doing it the way that it is intended to be done, which means going to a certified a surgeon, plastic surgeon, to get your body altered in some kind of shape, way, or form, or if people are doing back alley things with their bodies. But we see here a woman went in for a Brazilian butt lift and left out without a kidney. Where the heck did the kidney go? Um, and I'm sure she didn't sign up to give away her kidney. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I know this segment is super short. Really, to be quite honest, it's because for some reason I was being blocked. Maybe the folks didn't want me to come on here and share my articles that I had prepared for you guys today. But for some reason I couldn't get on StreamYard on my timing that I'm usually on at 10:15. So I was a tad bit late. I want to be very courteous of my network mate who's coming on at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to hop, but I definitely wanted to give you guys those articles because it has been on my heart of sharing these with you guys today. Definitely tune into us next week. Time 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. Saturdays, the Blackout Live from New York. If you have any things that you would like me to highlight, discuss, peel back a little bit, I'm kind of thinking about doing a segment on entrepreneurship and transparency. So I'm going to sit on that and see how I feel. But I've been hearing a lot around these ecosystems that people aren't being honest around how they are seeking in or gaining opportunity, as far as contracts are concerned, as far as speaking engagements are concerned, that lead to additional verticals of finances for their business. And I want to have an open, honest conversation around how this truly happens. And if you're just doing it for the gram, is that enough? Um, Also, if you're just handing out your business cards, is that going to be enough? So I wanted to have a conversation about that, but I am going to sit and wait and see what goes on. Talk to you guys soon. If you want to connect with me, definitely hit me up in the comments and or send an email to info at the dmfirmnyc.com. Until later, ciao.